The housing market is about to get ugly. There is something dangerously wrong going on inside the housing market. Rent prices are soaring because millions of Americans who want to buy houses cannot possibly afford them, so they are forced to rent them. The market is broken for the average American. Even if the Federal Reserve is going to lower the interest rate, it is not going to help. But what if I told you that the government is systematically trying to make it impossible for the average American to buy a house? I know that it sounds like a conspiracy, but after I show you the facts, I think you will change your mind. So if you're ready, give this video a thumbs up and let's dive right into it. The first argument that they're telling us that there is a huge shortage of supply of houses in the market, and that's why house prices are so insanely high. There are so many buyers in the market chasing too few houses, and the data suggests that we're actually building more houses and the number of houses in the market is growing, which is why most likely sometime in the future, in a couple of years from now, house prices are going to stabilize. But over the last couple of years, we've been building more and more houses and nothing actually helped. And that's because 15 million houses right now in the market are vacant. If we dump all of these houses today into the market, house prices are going to crash and will make it possible for the average person to buy a house. Why do we have 15 million vacant houses anyways? Why aren't these people actually selling those houses if they don't need them? Why aren't they lowering prices to be able to sell them? It's not so easy. Top 10% of Americans own 45% of all the houses in the market, especially single-family homes. And when you're sitting on so many houses, you purchase them for investment purposes. So you're not going to sell them just because someone else needs a house. You are going to sell them to make a profit or rent them for a higher price, which is what the top 10% of Americans are doing, who own literally almost half of all the single-family houses in the country, while the bottom 50% owns less than 10%. So there is a middle class who owns houses that they live in, but almost half of the houses in the country are being owned by investors. Especially in recent years, especially in the last 10 years, private equity and institutional investors saw a great opportunity in the housing market and they started buying them. And now they're not simply going to lower their prices. And that is the fundamental problem with the housing market today. However, why can't we simply just build more houses? Yes, they have actually purchased all of these houses, but developers can simply start building more houses, and that will significantly increase the supply of houses, which will force all of these investors who are sitting on millions, let me tell you, 15 million empty houses, and it will force them to either sell them or rent them at a lower price. Well, if it was that easy, we could have actually solved the problem long time ago. The real problem why we can't build more houses is because of the policies that we have passed. There is something called zoning. So you have an entire land in the city or a county, and most of that land is allocated for different purposes. So it's called zoning. This part of the city is for agriculture. That part of the city is for apartments. This part of the city is for single-family houses. And there are also laws that says that for every single apartment or for every single duplex or a single family house that you build, there must be a certain number of parking lots. And if you look at the map, you suddenly realize that most of the land is allocated for single family houses. Everything that you see in purple is allocated for single family homes. Now, the problem with single family houses is that they're huge, they take much bigger land, and they're much more expensive. The vast majority of first home buyers would gladly just buy an apartment or a duplex or a triplex that is much cheaper, but you cannot possibly build them because most of the area is allocated for single family houses. In some places, that's like 80% of the land in the entire city. If we change the zoning laws tomorrow and you are allowed to build any kind of places or any kind of apartments or duplexes or buildings in any part of the city, suddenly you will have a bunch of developers who will jump in and they will build so many apartments that are much cheaper than single family houses, or they will build duplexes or triplexes which are cheaper than single family houses, and house prices are going to crash tomorrow. Which is why homeowners, in this case institutional investors who have the vast power or the voting power to rule how zoning is supposed to be, are going to force these politicians to pass laws to prevent changing the current laws so that the housing market is not going to crash. And this is the fundamental reason why there is a huge shortage of houses in the market. Because building houses is easy. We've been building houses for the entire of human history. If we actually take the pure technology and the pure materials, there are developers who can literally build thousands of houses in a few months. You can see sometimes China that builds literally entire apartment blocks in a matter of 2 months. Of course, something like that is most likely not happening in the US, but nonetheless, you can build those apartments that will fix the housing problem instantly. But unless you change the zoning laws first, that is not possible. Prior to 2008 financial crisis or prior to the housing crash, almost 80% of all the houses were being owned by people who live in them. So housing before the 2008 wasn't seen as an investment opportunity. You would just buy a house and in that house you're going to live, which is why only 20% of the market was owned by investors who purchased these houses for the sake of investments. They would rent them out or they would literally just flip them and sell them for a higher price later on. When the financial crisis of 2008 happened, house prices dropped dramatically, and that's when the Federal Reserve stepped in to save the housing market. That's when also investors saw a golden opportunity, so they jumped in and they started massively buying those houses. Starting from 2008 up until 2022, the Federal Reserve was subsidizing mortgage rates by massively spending trillions of dollars annually to buy mortgage-backed securities in the market that artificially lowered mortgage rates, which allowed those investors to take huge mortgages and buy all of those houses. And that made buying a house very difficult for the average American. Back in 2024, the number of first-time buyers was 1.1 million. That is the lowest number since 1989. Back in 1989, the population of the United States was 240. Today, it's 340. So the population has increased by 100 million, and yet the number of first-time home buyers have actually went down to 1989. That's how difficult it became to buy your first house. Now, if you have purchased one house, it's much easier to buy a second one. So the difficult part is that first one. Since 1990s, inflation, if you don't count the last couple of years, was about 2%. If you compare it to wages growth, then wages have actually increased dramatically. Back in 1990s up until the 2008 financial crisis, wages grew by a little over 4%. After the financial crisis, it began to grow by about 3%. So in general, people got wealthier because inflation was 2% all this time, while wages grew between 3 to 4%. So how did we end up in a situation where people cannot buy houses, where house prices got insanely out of control? And that's because the government decided to take out house prices out of inflation data so that it won't be illustrated in the inflation data. During the exact same period, from late 1990s up until the 2008 financial crisis, house prices grew by an average of 7 to 8%. There were years where house prices would grow by 10%. Yes, there was a crash in 2008 and house prices stagnated for some time, but they quickly recovered, and since then they've been growing by about 7 to 8% again. Now compare these numbers to the real wages that have been growing. Now you can see that house prices over time have been growing way faster than wages. A single year of such growth isn't going to make a huge difference, but every single year is going to compound, and over a long period of time, in this case over a period of 35 years, they've actually gotten insanely high. Even if you literally just compare 2022 and 2021, where house prices grew by 18%, wages grew by just 6.5%, while inflation was 8.1%. Do you see how deceptive the numbers are? Do you see why you can't trust inflation data today? Because if you follow inflation data, you're supposed to be way wealthier. That pushed people to rent more, which is the main reason why rent prices today are insanely high. If you want to bring down rent prices, just make housing more affordable, because the vast majority of people will most likely buy houses since you're building equity. And if you're settling down, why would you rent for your entire life when you can buy a house? And that has been happening for the last 40 years. Back in 1980s, 3.6 times of a single household would equal to a single price of a median house. Today, that number has grown to 5.3, which basically means that house prices have been increasing way faster than average wages since the government took out the house prices from the CPI data. The real question now is, how can we fix the problem? There is a very easy and simple way to change it. Just change the zoning policies. Just allow for more other type of houses to be built. Let more apartments to be built instead of single family homes. Let more duplexes or triplexes to be built. But that's most likely is not going to happen, because homeowners have a lot of power over politicians. They are going to force them to keep the current laws, which will prevent more apartments or duplexes or triplexes to be built. In some places in California, you literally have places where 90% of all the land is allocated towards single family houses, and I don't think that is going to change anytime soon. And that's very sad, because buying a house was the main tool to build wealth in America, because the average person, he literally just working an average wage, and the only hope the person has to build wealth is to go and just buy one house, get a mortgage. Once you build equity, you go buy a second house and then the third house, and by the time you are 40, 50, 60, you will be with a bunch of houses and you have built real wealth that you can then pass down to your kids. Today, because just buying your first house is so insanely difficult, the vast majority of people, especially young people, are stuck in a position where they have to pay these high rent prices and they're not building equity. And by the time they will buy their first house, they will probably be like in their 30s and 40s. Especially now, the average person is getting out of college with massive student debts, then credit card debts, and a car loan, and a bunch of other debts. Which is why now probably the only real option that is left for anybody to build wealth is to go through the stock market. Yes, it's not overnight. Now, the problem with people who get into the stock market is that they start investing, they start buying a couple of stocks, and then there is a market panic, and they get stressful, they get nervous, and they sell their stocks. And then they complain that they couldn't build wealth in the stock market. They purchased some stocks and it wasn't actually successful. But stock market is a little bit more complicated than the real estate market. But you can build far more wealth in the stock market than you can build with real estate. And that's why if you literally just look at the richest people in America, you will see that the vast majority of them hold their wealth in the stock market and not in the real estate. The real difficult part is to make your first $100,000. Once you do that, once you understand how you got there, then getting to $1 million or 10 million gets a lot easier. So if you want a step-by-step guide on how you can get your first $100,000 in the stock market, then check out the first link in the description of this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.